Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics Evolve, where we discuss all things around comics media culture with your hosts, Andy, Jarian, and Alex.
Welcome to Comics Evolve with myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And we are back for the last show of 2023. Jarian, how are you?
Doing pretty good. I'm pretty much on break right now, so just hanging out, doing stuff around the house, and just getting ready for the holidays. How about you?
Beautiful. I'm fine, thank you. Alex, how are you?
I'm doing great. I made the mistake of waiting to order a few things for Christmas, and I'm playing it close to the vest here. I got like a few things arriving on Sunday, so looking forward to those getting in. So.
Cutting it fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we've got a couple of bits left to do, but yeah, looking forward to the Christmas period. So it's always fun. Not got any young children anymore in the family, but it's always fun to get together. I was literally just saying earlier on that the thing I like most about Christmas is the fact that you spend lots of time with people. You spend lots of time with family and friends, and I quite like that, because usually we don't have time for it, do we? We're too busy to meet up for that, that drink or that meal or whatever it is, and this gives us that excuse. But yeah, so we're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to talk about What If. That starts as of Friday. We've got one episode a day for the 9 days. We're going to talk about Echo, which has been bumped up a little bit. We're going to get that a little bit earlier than we expected, which is nice. And we're going to chat about some news and rumours, and obviously that big piece of news, Marvel letting go Jonathan Majors, and what are they going to do with Kang? We're going to get into that. But let's start with What If, because that's the closest thing we've got coming up. They released a new trailer last week, I believe, or some clips. And I love how it started. It started with Jeffrey Wright's Watcher saying, let me tell you my favourite Yuletide story. But the best thing about that was that he was showing Captain Carter the Yggdrasil, the World Tree from the Loki season 2 finale, and it was decorated with Christmas lights, which was quite fun. But so obviously we've already got that carryover from Loki season 2 into What If, which is great.
Speaking of that too, did you guys, Marvel has a Lego advent calendar, and for the past 3 years now, they've released an advent calendar. This year, the advent calendar came out way early, and guess what one of the characters in the advent calendar is? Loki on the throne. So they actually Lego actually gave that away months in advance, and nobody really noticed until the end of Loki season 2.
That's awesome.
So
that is pretty cool. Yeah. That is pretty cool. I find it interesting that the Watcher's showing Captain Carter. Yeah, obviously Captain Carter's got some sort of real, big role to play in the Watcher's plans. He's reached out and spoken to her, and he's showing her the World Tree.
Wasn't she one of the ones he pulled, though, from different universes, though, in the first season? So they kind of, I wonder if it's the same Captain Carter or a different Captain Carter in that aspect, because
I'm not sure. It feels like they're doing something kind of weird here, where like I feel like we're gonna see the Watcher maybe pull her in, and then we've got that episode later on where it's like, what if Doctor Strange, I think, pulled like everything. I don't remember exactly what the title is.
It is what if Strange Supreme intervene? It's the last episode.
And it makes me like wonder, like, what happens if the Watcher goes missing and he goes and like pulls like what was her name? Not Sharon Carter.
Captain Carter?
Captain Carter, but Peggy Carter. He goes and pulls that Peggy Carter, and maybe the Watcher shows her something, and then the Watcher goes missing, and then Strange Supreme intervenes and like pulls everybody in, and that he plays that kind of Watcher role, I guess, like towards the end of this.
Yeah, I wonder whether we're going to get that similar sort of thing that we had from the first season, where they weren't really connected at all until they were. Do you know what I mean? They weren't connected. You didn't have to see the previous one, and then right at the end, they kind of went, well, actually, we're going to bring these together a little bit.
Which, I mean, it's kind of like an anthology series, but it's also not like an anthology series. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it is, but like, it's just like one of those things where it's like, I don't really think enough really like of those episodes in season one really build off of each other until the very final like 2-part episode that they did. I don't even really think there was any overlap, to be honest.
No, I didn't mind that though. That I quite enjoyed that. It was quite nice to be able to watch just sort of separate, episodes. So we've got a few other things going on as well, haven't we? We've got this one about the 10 Rings. John, have you got the list of episodes there?
Yes, I do, right in front of me. So there are 9 episodes, and starting on Friday, we will have the 9 episodes of What If for the Christmas season here. So episode 1, the first one, on December 22nd is going to be What If Nebula Joined the Nova Corps. So there you have that one there. Episode 2 the next day will be What If Peter Quill Attacked Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Now this one's interesting because remember we saw Ego approaching Quill at the end of season 1 where he was like in a restaurant, like a McDonald's or Burger King or something like that, I think. Some kind of restaurant, fast food joint. Yeah, or maybe it was Dairy Queen. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Interesting to see. So if we actually see Peter actually get Ego's powers, becoming Ego, kind of a play on Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2. Christmas Eve, what if Happy Hogan saved Christmas? And they're saying this has a little bit of a Die Hard angle to it from what I've read and heard out there. So that'll be interesting. He's kind of the John McClane role possibly in this episode, if you've seen the Die Hard series. Episode 4, what if Iron Man crashed into the Grand Master? Now, this was the one from season 1 that got pushed because of the deadline, because of the COVID stuff. And this is where we'll see, we saw a glimpse when they pulled Gamora in from the multiverse stuff of that one. And we have the Lego toy as well from that, where it goes into a car also. So they're doing that one, but it was like, what if he went to Sakaar was the one, but now they're changing it, crashed into the Grand Master. So
which, you know, I think it would be so cool if they just did like the what if spin on that is in the first Avengers movie, he pilots that missile into space. Like, what if he just like was lost in space?
Yeah.
And then the Grandmaster grabs him and pulls him there to Sakaar, and then they just kind of play with that. That'd be kind of cool. I think that would be something that would be kind of smooth. Or they could just have like an Endgame when he's lost in space and running out of oxygen, basically, like instead of Captain Marvel finding him, he's found by like the Grandmaster's people.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool with the nuke missile. Maybe the explosion blew him off into a wormhole, similar to the Hulk when he was in the Quinjet, went through a wormhole and landed on Sakaar, where they kind of just switched up to that one right there. But also, yeah, you're pretty right on the Endgame one if he was lost in space as well. The next one is what if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper, and that's also possibly one from season 1 at the end where she found it in the storage, and Steve was still in the Hydra Stomper. So, that's interesting. What if the Kahori reshaped the world? So this is one that they're going back to like 1689 or something like that. I can't remember. So this is an interesting one, and they're introducing a new character too as well. What if Hela found the 10 rings? So we're getting Hela back. We're gonna get Odin in this episode. We're gonna get Wenwu and everything. So this one's gonna be interesting to see how that happens.
I'm super excited for that episode, and I think a lot of people are. And to be honest, like, you know, you've got Wenwu, who's had the rings for like at least 1,000 years, and in the MCU, we know that Odin came to Earth like over 1,000 years ago to bring the Tesseract. So it kind of like gives me hope that maybe he comes to Earth to lead the Tesseract and runs across Wenwu with the 10 rings, and then that's like some kind of like fight that transpires and happens. But yeah.
Also, wonder too.
There's a couple of great scenes from the trailer of that episode. So yeah, that looks like an exciting episode. It looks like there's going to be some really nice set pieces in that one.
Also wondered too if this is during the period when Hela and Odin were going out and basically conquering the universe, the 9 realms, before he put her into kind of banishment and so forth. What if the Avengers assembled in 1602? And then the final episode on December 30th will be what if Strange Supreme intervened. So
excellent. Yeah, looking forward to this series. I really enjoyed the first series, and it took a while to get into it. But yeah, I was really pleased with it by the end. And
I I think this season's going to be really interesting because it seems like there's a lot of episodes. There's at least 3 that I'm thinking of right now that seem to go way back in history, like several hundred years to 1,000 years, versus like we've seen stuff that have happened like recently in the MCU, like from like 2008 to forward, kind of. But we haven't really seen like anything that's, I feel like, in my opinion, gone back like 300, 400, 1,000 years, and how differently that would have played out. I mean, I think like one of the ones that may be, I guess, a qualifier would be like, what if Thor was an only child? But like, I mean, you know, it does that really count? I mean, because it was kind of focused on Thor currently, you know. So yeah, I think it'll be a really nice touch with the whole multiverse thing and the time travel stuff to kind of like take a look at a different way back for at least a few of those episodes.
I wonder if, you know, the whole thing you said about what if the Watcher has to go somewhere and then Strange takes on that role. I wonder if this will finally lead us getting the Watcher in live action. Because think about it, from season 1, Captain Carter crossed over to live action in Multiverse of Madness, right? So we got that one. I wonder if this one will lead us to having the Watcher finally cross over into live action, and we see Jeffrey Wright for a while to kind of finish off this multiverse saga. It'd be kind of funny that with Deadpool, whatever they're going to call it, being the only film next year, if we get some kind of funny line that all of a sudden when you see Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher and like, what is this, you know, kind of like flabbergasted seeing Deadpool do all these things and doing stuff, and that kind of kicked us off into the rest of the multiverse saga, so that'd be interesting to see.
I feel like it'd also be really interesting, too, if they just did something like the Watcher basically is forced to leave his post by other Watchers or something like that, and that's why, like, Strange Supreme intervenes. It's because, like, he's trying to help clear the Watcher's name or something like that, you know, like maybe the Watcher's framed for something. I'm thinking of a similar story, I feel like.
Yeah, that is exactly a story. I was literally just going, I know where he's going with this. Yeah, that happens, doesn't it? And he's like, how do you pronounce his name? Utatu or Uatu? Or...
Utu? I thought it was Utu.
Yeah.
I say Uatu, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. I say it in my head when I'm reading a comic, and I don't actually fully say it. I just sort of make it up. Never said it out loud, I don't think. Anyway, he's kind of looked down upon by the other Watchers. That he's like a renegade, isn't he? So yeah, maybe something happens there where other Watchers get involved and they sort of imprison him, and Stranger's got to do the work, you know.
And that could very well just be what happened in season 1 that leads to that, where they're like, hey, you intervened and you weren't supposed to. So now, like, you're being relieved of your duty and we're going to have to kick you to the curb. And it's like, okay, like, you know.
Yeah, I also wonder, too, if since they could play on those multiple Watchers that we saw with the Stan Lee cameo in Guardians 2, was it? When they're going through all the wormhole jumps. I wonder if, you know, he could be part of, like, an outcast one from those Watchers that we saw in the MCU, maybe. And live action MCU, I should say.
Yeah, I quite liked there was parts of that whole sort of multiple Watchers and Uatu getting sort of losing his powers and dying. Who killed the Watcher? You know, there was parts of that were a bit silly, but there was other parts that were great. You know, like Nick Fury taking his eyes, and like he had his eyes. You know, he could see it. It was brilliant. But yeah, so I'd like to see him maybe play on some of those storylines, like you were saying, Alex. Like he goes missing, or he's, you know, he has to answer to, you know, the head Watchers. Yeah, I think it's his dad or someone like that. They're the people in charge. So yeah, and that's where Strange has to step in to save the multiverse, because the Watchers are doing something that's even more important than that.
Yeah, and him and Strange Supreme were kind of friendly at the end of the first season. Like, he's kind of like, I'll just kind of leave you here. And he's kind of like, they talked almost like they were old friends at the end of that, you know, like, and it's kind of like, I'll be here kind of if you ever need me kind of type of thing. And Strange is just chilling in that little pocket dimension almost. So, like, I mean, it's a universe, but it's all been gone basically because of what Strange Supreme did. But, you know. So.
It's an interesting concept what they've done as well with this one every day for 9 days. It's something totally new. Obviously they're doing lots of things totally new. Obviously we're going to talk about Echo in a moment, and what they're doing there is going to be new as well with the sort of the mass drop. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes down and how it's received on our group. You know, how people manage to watch it, whether they watch 2 or 3 episodes in one go, or whether they, you know, so whether they save them up and then watch them all together. Or whether they watch them every day, or whether they save it all till the end and watch it all. it's going to be interesting to see how people, you know, fit it into their lives. But yeah, I was just talking about one a day. I was talking to somebody the other day about 12 Monkeys, and they were saying that they were doing a rewatch and they were doing one a day. So one episode a day for Hour of Love. There's like, you know, 46 episodes or 48 episodes or something like that. So it's an interesting way to do it. One every day. It spreads it out a bit.
It's so funny. First time I watched that show, I was like so into it because I never watched it when it came out. I watched it when it was all completed, all the way through the most recent season, and I like binge watched so much of that show. And I got to the final season, and I had like 6 episodes left, and I was like, man, I gotta space these out. I can't get to that ending, like, you know, like I want to prolong this as long as possible. So.
From the chat here, Jimmy Cloud from the group says we were going to try and watch What If every morning. Yep, same here. Me and my son will probably watch it every morning too, as well, starting Friday. A couple of things here. We do have some new cast members. So it looks like we're getting the same people back that did voices in season 1, but we're also going to have Elizabeth Olsen voice Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch. And then also we're going to have, I don't think so, the Winter Soldier, was he in the first season? I don't think we saw him in the first season.
Might be,
I can't remember.
Was he in the zombie episode?
I think he was.
Okay, but Sebastian Stan will be voicing the Winter Soldier. Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster. Kate Blanchett will be voicing Hela in this in this season. Lawrence Fishburne will be voicing Bill Foster, Giant Man. Tandwa Kani will be voicing a younger T'Challa, Black Panther. Sam Rockwell, which we saw in the preview in the Hulkbuster, he will be voicing Justin Hammer, and Jude Law will be voicing Yon-Rogg in season 2 as well. And then we get the introduction of a young Mohawk woman named Kahori, an original MCU character in season 2. From the chat here also, thank you for the reminder. Yes, Winter Soldier was in season 1. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, very much looking forward to What If. It looks like they've tweaked the animation style a little bit as well from the trailer. It looks like it's just slightly more detailed, a little bit more texture to it. So I quite enjoyed the animation style from the first one. So if this is just a slight adjustment, maybe a little improvement on it, that'd be great. Any other thoughts about What If before we move on to Echo?
Yeah, I want to say that 1602 episode is actually based on a story by Neil Gaiman, if I remember correctly. I think he did like an Avengers 1602 or something like that story. So that'll be really interesting. For those who don't know, Neil Gaiman's the one that did the Sandman stuff, and he worked on Eternals too at one point. But yeah, great author. Always love his stuff. So
yeah, excellent. Yes, in like you said, Alex, going back hundreds of years and seeing an Avengers team pre-technology, I guess, will be fun. Yep, for sure. Okay, so yeah, like we said, this is a new way of releasing every day for 9 days, and then we've got a complete flip to that where we've got Echo, which has been moved up. I'm sure Jaren will give us the dates, and they're going to release all 5 episodes all on one day. They've dropped a new trailer or mini trailer, some clips again last week, sort of playing on the fact that it's sort of intense and it's mature. So yeah, is it the 9th of January, Jaren?
Yes, all 5 episodes will arrive January 9th at 6 p.m. Pacific time on Disney Plus and Hulu. So this is the first time they're doing this. You know, there's a couple of things here. All 5 episodes at once on Disney Plus and Hulu. Also, too, on Disney Plus, your profile has to be TVMA to watch the series as well. So,
very cool, very cool. Yeah, I mean, since that first trailer hit, I think it took everybody by surprise. Everyone was just like, "Wow, this is going to be amazing!" And I don't know if you've both seen the sort of mini trailer from last week as well. So again, the style of this looks very, dare I say it, Netflix.
Yep.
And you know, I think that's a great thing. If you ask me, this looks really good.
I'm always a sucker for those good fight scenes, and when they start that trailer and that little mini trailer, and they have that scene where she kicks the chair into the guy, I was just like, oh, I'm sold. Like, you know, again, like I just love that kind of stuff, like where people fight with the stuff around them and they do stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think the action in this looks great, and it looks like it's a lot more serious of a tone, I feel like, for this show, which is something that I really enjoy when the MCU does. I'm not a big fan of comedy and this kind of stuff. Like, I want to see, like, the heroes, villains fight and things like that, not really, like, rip jokes and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it for this. I'm just curious to see how dark of a tone it's actually going to have and how deep it'll kind of slide into that, because I'm worried that, like, what we see might be like some of the darkest tone stuff, like just kind of flash by real quick in the trailer, and we may not have, I guess, an incredibly dark series. Like, it may be one of those things where we might have seen some of the best parts right there, which, I mean, I guess it is a trailer, so I mean, that's kind of what you do.
I think we'll see more than the trailer, because from what I'm reading to you about her powers, that she's going to manifest powers from her ancestors, it looks like. And it looks like there's going to be flashbacks to her coming up and so forth. And just some of the fight scenes as well. I don't think they would just tease all that in the trailers and then kind of leave it, because I think they wouldn't do themselves justice if they did it like that. Especially from what I'm hearing about the Vincent D'Onofrio's quote. I'll talk about Daredevil Born Again and the tone and feel of it being similar to Echo. So I don't know. I think we're especially with them having it be TVMA on Disney Plus and Hulu. I don't think I don't think they're just gonna show what was in the trailer and that be it. I think we're gonna get a lot more stuff in it. I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Those ratings are given to the show, aren't they? Like, it's assigned to the show after the show's been made. It's not like we're gonna make it. We're gonna say that this is what it is. It's assigned to the show by an outside source, isn't it? So it's not within their control what it is. I mean, obviously it is. I know that they can say, well, let's not do this, and that won't be that then. But somebody else has watched this and they've said it's this.
Yep.
So yeah, I've got strong hopes for it. What I'm really hoping for is a sinister and menacing Kingpin. I thought we was going to get that in Hawkeye, but he didn't. He come off a bit soft for me, and I need him a little bit harder, a little bit more chiseled, and that kind of, like I say, that there was only a couple of times in the Netflix series that he actually did anything like physical. Like, very rarely did he do anything physical, but he was always scary. All the time. Even when he was looking at the art with Vanessa, he was scary, and I want him to be that guy.
You almost wonder if the snap has changed anything with him, and that's where he was the way he was in the Hawkeye series, seeing that we were post snap then, and then what happened to him at the end with Maya and so forth, being shot, if that's what kind of snaps him back into being that more ruthless style Kingpin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love Kingpin in the Netflix series, but I did not like that episode where they had him. He was like sitting in the back of like a restaurant or something, wearing like a Hawaiian shirt and everything like that. Like, it was just kind of weird. It didn't feel like it was right. But I think with that character, from what they show in the trailer of him in the white suit and everything, beating the mess out of that dude in the alley and everything, like, I really feel like we're going to get to see like kind of a little bit more of that darker side of Kingpin that we saw in that Netflix show. Like, I don't know if we're going to see episodes like the one in the Netflix show where he literally like crushes some dude's skull with a car door, like, but like, I think that we'll probably see like some pretty brutal stuff, and that's going to probably impact Echo. And I mean, just with the little bit we saw in that first trailer they came out with him like beating up the dude in the alleyway because like he was basically very mean to her, like, I think that is probably like a good signal of probably some more terrible stuff we'll probably see in this show that she's probably seen and suppressed, and we just don't know about until now. So,
from the chat here, has anyone predicted if we need to watch all seasons of Daredevil to understand everything? I'm going to say no. I don't, in the sense, don't think that Daredevil Born Again or Echo is related to anything in the Netflix series. If anything, Netflix is multiverse, and we shouldn't expect anything from the Netflix series in either of those, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, right. I agree. If you haven't watched it, you should.
Yeah,
because he's good. But But yeah, I don't think you need to watch it to understand what's going to happen in the MCU with Daredevil or Kingpin or any of those characters. But yeah, I'm interested to see if I'm drawn a little bit more to Maya now it's her show and she's the main character, because I didn't really care for her much in the Hawkeye series, as in not I didn't feel for the character, but I was just kind of bit nothing about the character. So I'm hoping that she was good, but I could have taken it or left it. I'm hoping now that she really grows on me.
I don't think that show did her justice, to be honest. I felt like they were kind of just trying to lay that foundation for the relationship between her and Kingpin. And I felt like that was why she was in that show. Because, I mean, like, I felt, in my opinion, once Kingpin made his appearance in Hawkeye, they kind of pushed her to the side a little bit, And, yeah, I mean, like, I feel like that was also because they wanted everybody to know that he was coming back to play Kingpin as well, that actor. So, Vincent.
I think it was a good tease in Hawkeye. It was a good way to kind of get fans that don't know who Echo is from the comics introduced to her in just a little bit. And so it was kind of more like an appetizer to her, to like a meal. And then this show is going to be the main course.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Any closing thoughts on it? Well, how are we going to do Echo? Are people going to just binge it all 5 hours of show? I wonder how long they're going to be. I wonder if they're going to be 42-minute. Have we got run times, Jarian? Do we know?
I can look it up real quick.
Have a little look. But regardless of the run times, I wonder how people are going to do it. I mean, personally, the way my life is and my family is, we watch everything together. We might get one episode in a day for 5 days, but to be honest, I'd be surprised if I get it done in 5 days. Because just purely on a time thing with everybody. Like I said, there's 4 of us. We watch it all together. It's a bit of a tradition. So the what if thing, I'm hoping that we'll be able to do each episode each day. We might fall behind by a day, but then we might be able to catch up. The following day we might be able to do 2, because I assume that the what ifs will only be 25, 30, maybe 40 minutes long at the most. But I would hazard a guess that these are going to be at least 40 minutes, if not 50 or an hour even. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how people watch this. Again, another new sort of system, another new way of consuming our Marvel MCU content.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of content. I mean, to have What If right at the end of the year and then switch into the new year and then have Echo all pumped out. I mean, it's basically like, if you miss, say, 3 or 4 days of watching What If, you've got like half the season to watch pretty much, So like,
it's when people tell me they're doing challenges like, yeah, we're going to do 100 kilometers in January, and you're like, oh, that's cool. It only works out as it only works out as 10k a day. Yeah, but what if you miss one day? You've got to do 20k the next day, and it's a lot. Like you said, Alex, if you miss one episode of What If, the following day you've got, okay, you might have 2, but then if you miss another one, you have 4 episodes on the following day. They're going to be released. So yeah,
nothing on episode names or episode length, so it looks like you probably won't see them until it actually drops, unless something comes out here within the next week or so.
Okay,
so
all right, but either way, it's going to be it's a lot of content, isn't it? I mean, even if each one is 30 minutes long, it's still 2.5 hours. It's still longer than most movies that you're going to get. So yeah, not a bad thing. Just interesting to see how it's going to be consumed by different people in different situations. Any closing thoughts on Echo before we move on?
I'm looking. Okay, Alex.
I was just gonna say I'm really looking forward to that. I'll probably watch it probably sooner rather than later, even if I have to lose sleep over watching that, just because I want to see Vinny D as Kingpin. I always loved him as Kingpin. Like, he's just so like terrifying and seems like such a psycho that I feel like he really portrays that character really well. And yeah. Always.
That's what I was saying. That's what I meant earlier as well. Like, it's obvious that somebody like, I don't know, I'm just trying to think somebody evil, like Red Skull. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of somebody that's probably not a great example, but he's got a red skull. He's a Nazi. He's not a nice person. It's quite obvious. But you look at Kingpin. Apart from him being a large person, you wouldn't. He's just so menacing without. He wears a white suit. He's quite sort of, but he is just, everything about his aura just sort of says that, this guy is Yeah, he's bad. This guy's bad. You know, he doesn't have to have a red skull as his face to be obviously bad. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. He's got this feel about him.
Mm-hmm.
John?
I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm looking forward to seeing more of Alaqua Cox. I think she's done well in the Hawkeye series. Plus, the representation, not only of the different. I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but with her being deaf and having prosthetics and that kind of stuff, but also too the Native American representation as well. Marvel has done a really good job so far, I think, with cultures. Especially what we've seen in Wakanda, and then also Talokan with Namor and so I'm looking forward to see how they do this. The stuff from the preview they showed and the costumes and whatever it's so far, I'm really looking forward to seeing that aspect of this series.
Cool theory. I don't really know how this would work, but what if that new character in What If is actually related to Echo? And
her ancestor.
And they could do that, and that spiritual thing that she has going on is the same thing that her ancestor has in another universe or whatever.
I reckon that could very well be the case. Very well.
One more thing too. I also wondered how much Daredevil we're going to see, and if that's going to build into Born Again or into some Spider-Man 4 stuff that I'll talk about as part of the news as well. Also, if we're going to get the handprint on the face as well with Echo and so forth. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing some of those details.
Yeah, for sure. Superb. Right, so let's move on to the news of the week. We've obviously got a big pressing news item with the Jonathan Majors scenario. I mean, we know what's happening there. Have you got anything, really sort of telling that in the news that stuck out apart from the obvious, Joe?
Not really. He was convicted of 2 of the 4 charges. He could face a year in jail or probation. He's being sentenced in February. Marvel wasted no time releasing, basically saying that we've cut ties with him. So Jonathan Majors is no longer part of Marvel Studios. Not surprising. People keep wanting to see a press release or some kind of statement that this is a very sad situation. Hopefully everyone involved in the situation gets the help they need. But I don't think Marvel needs to release any kind of statement. I think them automatically basically coming out after the verdict was done within hours. I don't even think it was an hour. Nice. They basically said they cut ties with him. So I think that's their statement. And then from there, they just need to move on. Now, other news, though, reportedly the Kang Dynasty is being referred to as Avengers 5 at Marvel Studios now, which we've heard rumblings before where they might change the name Kang Dynasty to Secret Wars Part 1 and then have actually Secret Wars be Part 2. But now it's become Avengers 5 now. So it looks like, they're definitely changing that storyline. Everything I've heard from people reporting stuff is they're not going to transition away from the Kang storyline, which I hope they don't. My only option would be if they do transition to the Beyonder. Do not shoehorn Doom in right now into this. Don't make a more of a mess than it is right now. Bring Doom in properly. Don't shoehorn Doom into this. So if you don't recast Kang's character, then you have the opportunity now to transition to the Beyonder and finish out Secret Wars in that kind of style. And it will still tie into the whole multiverse saga as well.
Yeah, I think it's such a disservice to the character of Kang if they don't recast and do something there. I mean, Kang is one of those characters. He's always just kind of out there, and he just kind of pops up randomly, and you never really know he's coming. I feel like that's the way him and all of his variants should be in the MCU, and it should be one of those things like, at some point they put him down, but they don't really permanently put down the threat of another Kang. You know what I'm saying?
And that's how they kind of ended Loki season 2. How you noticed that some of the tonal change at the end of that season, but Miss Minutes change, the way that they said that, they're already out there defeating the variants out there already, and they're popping up, and they're saying the 1616 took care of itself, referring to Quantumania. So they've kind of already left that open to right now. They could kind of not touch Kang right now and kind of already have that we think we've won right now, but he could always pop up later on down the road with another actor if they want to transition for him now. As part of Avengers 5 and Secret Wars. So they kind of already have that there. And like I said, they could do the Beyonder. What if, for example, we saw the purple lights with Ravonna at the end. We didn't see what those were from, you know. Speculation could be Alioth. What if she ends up becoming a Beyonder, for example? And she's the main threat as part of that. And we have other Beyonders as well. You know, they could always bring someone else in as the Beyonder also. Maybe that's who showed up to her with that purple light we saw was the Beyonder and kind of doing that. So they could transition to the Beyonder-like and still keep the theme of the multiverse saga, but, you know, I hope they stay with the Kang storyline, or at least some of it, and possibly bring Kang back later down the road.
Yeah, I think there's some common opinions within the fandom at the moment, and that's don't shoehorn in Doom. Like, give Doom his own entrance, not as an afterthought, not as a contingency plan. That's not what Doctor Doom should be. So don't do that with Doctor Doom. You can't not finish the Kang storyline. Now, whether that's finished now, or whether, like you said, you kind of use this as like a loose, we've defeated him, but he comes back up at another point. Because like you said, Alex, he's always about, you know, he always pops up. So you never really defeat him because he always pops up.
Yep.
So you could use it, you know, you could kind of pretend that, at the end of Quantumania, he was defeated. You could kind of pretend at the end of Loki, he was defeated. So you could loosely use those things. But whatever happens, that storyline has to be finished. Or not finished, but it has to continue. The Kang storyline has to continue. You know, I'd really like to see, you know, again, keep banging on about it recently, but I've been watching loads of time travel stuff, and the loops in time travel things are so interesting. So interesting to see that, you know, snake eating its own tail, that whole idea. You know, was it us that caused this problem in the first place? And, you know, was it? I'd love to see the Only Myself Left to Conquer storyline played out a little bit better.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he's such a good storyline, isn't he? He's so good. It's ridiculous. You're reading it, and you're like, I know where this is going, and even when it does go there, you're still surprised.
And Ravonna was a Moon Knight in that, if I remember correctly. So, like, I mean, I was blown away the first time I was like reading that. I was like, holy cow! Like, I felt like that was so nice to kind of like see that little thing, because, like, you know, you had basically Kang go all the way back to like be the Pharaoh of Egypt or whatever is Ramatut, and then, you know, you have Apocalypse and all that kind of stuff. So there's so much more that they could touch on in the past, which, you know, like I still am kind of upset that Moon Knight did not have the tomb of Ramatut instead of Alexander the Great.
Yeah,
but, you know, it is what it is.
You also have that Moon Knight annual #1 where you have all those variants of Moon, or all the different Moon Knights avatar, you know, over the years fighting against Kang to that whole thing too as well. So that'll be interesting to see too, especially with the whole Ravonna being a Moon Knight at some point, where I wonder if that ties in. I wonder if that's how they can actually pull in Moon Knight into this as well, as part of this multiverse saga. But, you know, we had some posts, and you had that post in the group, Andy, about recasting. And so do you want to talk about thoughts on if they do stay with the Kang and who the recast could be?
Well, I'll tell you what, let's go in there and have a look at who some of our members fancied. Will Smith. Will Smith was pulled up. And I was like, do you know what? You can't deny that the guy is a talented actor, artist, whatever. I don't think he's right for the role, to be honest. But more importantly, he's got his own sort of things that he's trying to deal with at the moment. You know, the last thing that they need to do is come away from, you know, a problem that like Jonathan Majors has caused and go into somebody like what could potentially be a problem that not Will Smith's going to cause, but, you know, he's got issues. Can't have Will Smith in the role. I don't think that's going to work. But we had quite a few suggestions. Let's have a look. So I suggested Corey Hawkins, the guy from Straight Outta Compton. He played Dre in Straight Outta Compton. He was in Kong, and funnily enough, he was actually in Iron Man 2 as a Navy soldier, Navy sailor. I think he kind of looked at a screen and was like, "Hey, we've got a bogey at 12 o'clock," and then it sort of cut off. But I thought that was quite funny that he was in Iron Man 2 and it could sort of come back and, you know, show you that he was there all along as Kang.
That was Kang the whole time.
Yeah. And Marvel's not afraid to reason actors for other roles too as well. So
yeah,
we've seen it already happen.
Alex's one, and I still like it. And I saw that mock-up that you put on our group. Denzel Washington looks absolutely amazing as Kang. I mean, he's 68 years old, but who cares? It's Denzel Washington.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know we talked about the Beyonder earlier, but you could almost just have him play like the Beyonder version of a Kang, and do it that way. I mean, I don't really think that really does that character justice to kind of like mesh those two together, to be honest. But like, he's an older guy, so like I think Majors was like half his age. I think he was like 34, 35, and he's 68, so that's a big change. But Denzel Washington, man, he's such a phenomenal actor, and I love his voice. I love to hear him talk. I saw that movie, The Book of Eli. It came on TV recently, and I was watching that, and I love that movie because it ends with that nice little twist that he's been blind the whole time, and he's done all that. Man, that's so awesome. But
that is cool.
Yeah,
talking about Denzel Washington, his son, John David Washington,
have them both play roles.
Yeah, they could both do it. That would be great. But again, another great actor. He's played in some good roles, and I haven't seen The Creator yet. That's coming out soon, isn't it? I believe it's going to be.
It's out, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, it's going to be on streaming services soon. But again, another great actor.
How old is his son, by the way?
I don't know, Jarian. Have a look while I think.
He's got to be in his 30s, I bet.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say half his age, maybe 34, 35.
I was gonna say you might be able to like squeeze him as an Iron Lad or something like that, but it still seems like he's kind of old for that.
39.
So, yeah,
39, definitely too old to be a lad.
Yeah. So.
John Boyega. Lots of people have said John Boyega. Now, I quite like John Boyega until I saw a mock-up of John Boyega as Kang, and I went, oh no, actually, I really don't like that now. It really doesn't fit. But I quite like John Boyega, not necessarily in his Star Wars roles, but I've liked him. I really liked him in Attack the Block. I think in Star Wars he was just underutilized, to be totally honest.
I liked him in the Mechs, the second movie.
Pacific Rim.
Yes, Pacific Rim too. I liked him in that as well. So I don't see him more as a villain though. I see him more on another role.
Yeah.
So.
And then Jarian, your shout was Damson Idris. Not somebody that I'm familiar with. I know who he is, but I've not seen any of his stuff. So I'll let you talk about him.
Yeah, he's up and coming. His biggest role to date would be Snowfall series on FX, and I think he could cover the whole spectrum of Kang and variants. Just seeing the way that he pulled that off, and especially with we kind of know Kang is kind of like a strategist, kind of a chess type model, and just seeing his rise and fall in Snowfall and some of the ways he maneuvered and that kind of stuff made me think of him as a person who could come in and play Kang as well. We know Marvel likes sometimes bringing these up and coming actors in for some of these roles, and I think he'd be a good one to do that. So if you haven't watched Snowfall, watch Snowfall.
Okay. And then the one other shout on that post was Coleman Domingo, who played Strand in Fear the Walking Dead. Now, I mean, I haven't seen him in anything other than Fear the Walking Dead, and if I'd have stopped watching Fear the Walking Dead season 2, I probably would have said, yeah, good. But then some of the stuff that he was given was just atrocious towards the end. He's got a great voice and he's got a great presence. I don't know if he's too... Well, I don't know. Maybe he could do it. I'm not sure. But
yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I love that dude. I think he's got, like, that narrator's voice. Like, I love to hear him talk. Like, he's got such a deep, great voice. But I think one of the most ridiculous episodes of that show is the one where they, like, build a plane in, like, 30 minutes and then fly a plane out. He, like, flies the plane, like, above, like, a nuclear irradiated zone. But, like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't think he's the right actor for that. Like, I don't know why. It's just, like, I can see it, but I can't see it, Like, I definitely get like, he could play a villainous role, but I don't think that would be the role for him. I think there's, like, 10 other roles I would choose, before I would get
Who's the dude that plays Black Manta in...
Yeah.
Yeah. He's quite cool. And
he could do it.
He's got that sort of harder face like Jonathan Majors, that sort of squarer jaw, that menacing look about him,
My other post I had today in the group too, and that same post was Aldous Hodge, right? I loved him. I loved him in he's been in Friday Night Lights. He was Hawkman in Black Adam. I think he could pull it off, just seeing some of the roles that he's played. I think he'd be a good candidate too as well. Go ahead, Alex.
I was just gonna say, go ahead, finish.
No, I was gonna mention one more, but so you can go ahead.
I was just gonna
that's
throw
great.
in-
You're so polite, you two. No, after you. No, after you. No, please, after you.
I was just gonna throw in one thing, like going back to Strand. I almost feel like he'd be like that actor. I cannot remember his name, but that
Coleman
guy who
Domingo.
played Strand. Yeah, Coleman Domingo. He would be a great Null. Like I could
Oh.
totally see him as Null. Like
Do you know what? Right. So I was gonna say a word, and I love the word flamboyant. I love that word. I just love saying it. And he is quite flamboyant. And I've always thought, whenever I've read Null, that he is evil and just and bad, but he's really flamboyant. I've always seen that flamboyant face. He's got this big smile, and he always looks like he's. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
So my other one is if they do transition to the Beyonder. And I know he was in Quantumania, but it was just a small role, and I think William Jackson Harper needs to have a bigger role in the MCU. You know, he was my favorite for Reed Richards. You know, and they could make him potentially Nathaniel Richards in the MCU, possibly depending on what the final casting is for Reed Richards. But I wouldn't mind if they go to the Beyonder, if they make it William Jackson Harper. Maybe he was there observing, you know, in Quantumania and kind of one of those things and so forth. So
he could be another King variant that reported back to the council that that one was dead, you know, air quotes. But
I wonder if they've been holding out for the Fantastic Four cast to wait until this happened to see if there is that way of linking them two, like the Nathaniel Richards, Reed Richards whole idea. I wonder. I mean, I'm not sure, but who knows? I wouldn't put it past them. Okay, so I think again, like I said, there's some common opinions. We don't want Doom shoehorned in. We would like Kang recast. We would like his story finished. What they're going to do, who knows? You know, we just have to. There's nothing we can do about it. We just have to sit here and consume whatever they. Well, we don't have to consume it, but they're going to put something out, and we'll choose to consume it or not. And hopefully, they'll make the right decisions.
And that Doom thing, I feel like it's like everybody would love to see Doom in Secret Wars, right? Like that would be awesome. But at the same time, like that should have been something that should have had the groundwork laid like in Phase 4 or early Phase 5 before we started doing that. And at this point, it's kind of late to even try to ram Doom in something, in my opinion, because it's just not going to do him justice. It's not going to do that character any favors.
The closest thing we got was in Moon Knight, that castle in the Alps. They didn't say which Alps they were. But that was, I think, the closest thing that we've gotten that could have been a Doom tease. What will kind of be a cool thing, though, is that if they... Because we have some untitled projects out there, right? Still, for the MCU. If they end up doing, like, a Doom movie, like a movie from Doom's eyes, or the whole rumored Scarlet Witch project that's going around, that if he's the one that rolls up on the bear and saves her from the rubble of Mount Wundagore, and you know, she has amnesia and that kind of stuff, and with the whole Children's Crusade type stuff they're talking about doing, you know, I wonder if that's how they could bring him in, and if they do that before we get to Secret Wars or Avengers 5, then maybe he could still have a partial role in Secret Wars still, if they did it that, and then to set him up more for later coming down the line. You know, kind of some subtle things, but yeah, I don't try to make him like the main guy or the savior at this point.
Agreed. Okay. Should we move on with some other news and bits and pieces, Joe?
Yeah, so the What If Season 2 premiere event gave us some nice tidbits, right? So the first one is that Marvel announced a Wakanda animated series titled The Eyes of Wakanda. The animated series is set for a 2024 release. The synopsis is, throughout Wakandan history, brave warriors have been tasked to travel the world, retrieving dangerous vibranium artifacts. This is their story. According to Variety, Ryan Coogler is confirmed to be working on the series. So there's that one series from Wakanda we didn't have no idea what it was. It's an animated series. So right now we have 2 animated series in 2024. Now, what else happened is that we got new looks of X-97 is also, so we have 3 animated things right now, because X-97 releasing also next year. But they gave a new look of X-97. They also gave a look about Spider-Man Freshman Year. It has been renamed, though. It is now going to be called Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. That's also going to be released in 2024. So that is 4 animated series. I'm sorry, what if not in 2024, 2023? So 3 animated series in 2024. Sorry, I got, so close to the year, I'm bleeding years over. So 3 animated series now in 2024, X-97, Eyes of Wakanda, and Spider-Man, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So there you go.
Very cool, leaning heavily into animation. Cool.
Yep. Daryl Born Again news, via Post-Cred Pod, Vincent D'Onofrio says Daryl Born Again will have the same mature tone and feel as Echo. So Echo will be your preview into what you should expect from Daredevil Born Again. He also said that Born Again will be under the Spotlight banner for Marvel. So just like Echo is, that Born Again will be under that also. He basically said it's the same tone and feel. The attention that the bosses are giving to it is extraordinary. So there you go.
Excellent.
Loki, executive producer Kevin Wright on his hope for a future Loki via TV line. For 2 seasons, I've loved working with this team. I would love to keep telling those stories with them in this world. I don't think any of us would ever want to rush into season 3 if there's not a good story to tell, but I think this team could go off and tell their stories. Maybe it's not Loki season 3. Maybe there's something we can continue to do at the TVA, and it's like our Better Call Saul to Loki's Breaking Bad. That would be cool to me. I don't know the future of these characters in the MCU. Would love to do about, on more. I have to think with people really haven't enjoyed the story, that other filmmakers are going to want to come in and continue to tell stories in this world. That would be my hope. Now, that'd be kind of cool to have a TVA series under Marvel Spotlight as well, to kind of, see, more insight into the TVA. We've gotten bits and pieces of the TVA, but we haven't really gotten everything. What does the TVA look like now with the whole change of He Who Remains being gone and the new people leading the TVA?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love that idea. I think it would be really cool if they did a TVA spinoff just for the sole fact of, I think it's been mentioned that they're going to have Paradox in Deadpool 3. That's kind of that Mobius-like character in that show. They could do it with that character. They could just do it with somebody else, like just focus on a random agent of the TVA and have this spinoff. And they could do it like one of those weekly shows where it's like every week we've got a new problem in the multiverse of something that's happening that shouldn't be happening, and they have to focus on it that week. They could tie it all together, or they could just make it like a show that's like a revolving door of just interesting cases of the TVA kind of type of thing. And I think that would be really cool.
Would you take an animation?
Mm-hmm. I think animated.
I think if they did an animation, I think that they could bring in a lot of characters that they may not be able to get to like actually come back and play. But I mean, you could have like a character like Jimmy Woo make an appearance in the TVA and be like a recruited TVA agent or something like that. And I think that would be like, fans would love that, and then it would kind of feed a lot of people for something.
What was the Tales from the Crypt, the sort of short horror stories? I've had that feeling about what you just said. You have these kind of 23-minute animated, weekly animated shorts almost, but it's like another tale, a tale from the TVA, yeah.
Like a certain case. Each episode is like a different interesting case, and maybe some of those cases have kind of crossed over into what we see in the MCU.
Yeah,
and the final episode could be like Ravonna collecting people in the void to come in and like swarm the TVA and take the TVA back or something, and that would be excellent. I feel like, I mean, they've got so many different options, and there's so much about the TVA that it's a mystery, but like there are so many variants, there's so many universes, they just have so many options. They could just make something up random, and it doesn't really have to apply to anything, and they can make that an episode, so.
Speaking of the Void, they could even show some people ended up there in the Void. How do we get the whole big head of Yellow Jacket? How do we get the Quang Tower in there? How did some of the Lokis get there?
Yeah.
Yes, that.
We had the statue head as well, didn't we? So
some of the Lokis, maybe do something on Kid Loki, for example. So
animation would work perfectly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
From the chat here, what's the Spotlight banner mean exactly? So basically, they're not doing special presentations anymore. The Spotlight banner is for them to tell more stories about different characters who may not necessarily be fully connected into the current phase or into that. So it's the way to tell those stories. Like, for example, Moon Knight probably would have been released under the Marvel Spotlight because it's there. It's not really connected yet, but we have a way to know that story without having to actually know any backstory of what's going on in the MCU right now. And then he could come in later, for example. So that's what Marvel Spotlight's for.
It's like, let's shine a spotlight on this particular person or area or something that you haven't heard about before.
Which, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense with projects, especially like Born Again, because it's like, in my opinion, it's so hard to tie like a character like Daredevil to the multiverse stuff that's happening, you know? Like, it's like, you know, just let him just kind of do his own thing. Like, you don't have to like make his story, you don't have to make every character's story a part of the overall thing. Like, we've got a lot of variety that's happening. I think it's hard to tie characters like Echo or Daredevil, you know, to that kind of stuff.
And even if they are, like, even if they are tied to it, it would still only affect their part of the world. So like, there would still be crime within New York. There would still be stuff that they would be trying to solve. Maybe because of it, maybe that there's looters, or maybe people are taking advantage of, you know, less security or less police or whatever. But and so the story would affect them. They wouldn't affect the story. Does that make sense? So the story could still be going on, and they can acknowledge the fact that this is why this is happening. This is why these crimes are happening. This is why this person's trying to take advantage, you know, but they're not necessarily directly affecting what's happening, you know, whether there's an incursion. They're just dealing with some consequences. It's
like Hawkeye, for example, right? You know, Hawkeye's a good one where it kind of maintained into that street level type of thing, but didn't really, you know, other than showing the flashback to Avengers, you know, the Battle of New York that influenced Kate and where Kate was and that kind of stuff, you're not necessarily really impacting the overarching MCU, right? We you know, we saw some things in that show that kind of connected, but it wasn't really connected outside of what we already know it was happening in the MCU. Similar with Echo. And, you know, we're going to see parts back and forth of her, and she came in through Hawkeye, but it's not necessarily going to impact the overarching MCU right now.
Yeah.
But it might in the future, though, when I get to some stuff on Spider-Man 4. Go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to say, there was an Avengers cartoon that did this thing, and I cannot remember which one it was, but it was one of those two really solid ones that I really like, that they did that thing where the Avengers like disappear, and Tony Stark has a protocol that goes out, and it brings like people in to replace them, like Wolverine, Spider-Man, Iron Fist, and Power Man, and like all that. And it's like, those are all more street level characters almost that are brought in to replace the Avengers. But I love that idea because it's like, you know, they kind of are like, hey, y'all have been out there doing your own thing this whole time. Like, come in and help save the day. And it's like Spider-Man, who's like the big difference maker at the end of the episode, that kind of like pulls the Avengers back into the fold and gets them free. But it's like, I love that idea because it's like, you take the Avengers, which are like fighting global threats and all this kind of stuff, and they're just like, hey, we need help, like, we're gone, bring in whoever we can. Almost, you got like War Machine and stuff like that, and it's like everybody kind of plays a role in replacing that. And you can kind of do that with Spotlight, where it's like, you know, they are fighting things. Like, you could have like Daredevil fighting on the street in 2012 in a flashback against the Chitauri or something.
Exactly.
And you could have something like that, and it would be very cool.
Or
and
Jessica Jones investigating missing people during the snap, for example, as well.
Yeah, like basically looking at people who claim that they were snapped, and it turns out that they were not actually snapped, and they ran off, and, you know, new identity and all that kind of stuff. Because like, we heard that happened. You know?
Was that cartoon? Was that like one of the 2 or 3 part series of Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Avengers Assemble? Because I'm thinking in my head, as I'm making those faces, I'm like, I think that's one of the storylines of one of those seasons in there.
It's either Avengers Assemble or it's the other one, Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
I've seen it, and I'm sure I know exactly what it is. It's season 2 opener of one of them. I think I'm just gonna have a look now, see if I can find it.
But it starts real quick with like, the Avengers are gone, and then Tony Stark's protocol goes out, and it's like, you've been recruited, like, we need your help. And if I remember correctly, Wolverine's like one of the only ones. It's like, I don't want to do this, like, you know, like, but yeah, so.
Go on. Anyway, carry on while I just see which one this is.
So while he's looking, we'll start to get into Spider-Man news here a little bit. So Raimi's Spider-Man 4 that they were planning, you know, and kind of going through it, Anne Hathaway was originally cast as Black Cat via Happy Sad Confused. She said, if that had gotten made, I don't know if I would have been considered for The Dark Knight Rises. Perhaps Christopher Nolan would have said, no, she's occupied in another universe. So... Black Cat, Catwoman,
Similar role.
Yeah.
Typecast.
Yeah, same but different, but still same.
Basically.
Speaking of Spider-Man 4, MCU Spider-Man 4 news. According to Daniel RPK, Spider-Man 4 will indeed feature Daredevil teaming up with Holland Spidey, and in a very unexpected twist that may also include Paul Rudd-Lang. There's also been plenty of rumors that Daredevil Born Again will set up the plot of Spider-Man 4. And so this might be the whole thing with Vincent D'Onofrio becoming the mayor of New York, pretty much saying, all of these superpowered people in the city need to either, kind of similar to what Ross did in Civil War, the Accords, but more localized to New York City. And you probably have those for it and those against it. Vincent D'Onofrio has also gone on record as desiring on more than one occasion, including Daredevil makes sense, pretty much. But Cryptic HD Quality, another account I follow that gives me like trailer stuff and times of length of stuff and that kind of stuff. The rumor they're talking about too is that Marvel and Sony are treating Spider-Man 4 as their street level Civil War, referencing Captain America Civil War, to include Kate Bishop, Jessica Jones, Echo, and others. So my question is, if there's going to be others, are we going to have any Hero for Hire stuff, Defenders, Misty Knight possibly, Bullseye maybe, the Punisher? But if you think about it, if they're doing that whole thing with Kingpin basically saying, I want to know who these heroes are, or they need to get out of the city, could Daredevil be playing the Captain America role in this from Civil War, and basically Spider-Man be Bucky? Because nobody knows who Spider-Man is anymore, but everyone knows there's Spider-Man out there, right? Yeah. And I think Alex or somebody else said this, that Daredevil could sense who Peter was from No Way Home, even though he got a raise, but Daredevil's sense of other stuff could still have him recognize Parker, and that's why that could be the Captain America Bucky relationship to the two. It does make sense, but like I said, him being the Bucky role with everyone after him, with Lang being involved, whose team would Lang be on, especially with his run-ins with the law and stuff. So, maybe pulling Jessica Jones and Echo on the team, especially as, we have Echo going to be in or Daredevil being Echo, and might see her in Daredevil. Could we see someone like Kingpin bring in like Bullseye, recruit them? I'm trying to think who else. I don't think we would see like a Ned as Hobgoblin in this, because I think that's too overpowered for a street level type thing. Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting to see how they do this and who would be on the side of Kingpin and want to actually be known as, in that type of role in the city.
Yeah, I think they could be their own villains. Like, Kingpin, that Devil's Reign story, he's asking people to register or people to work for him, and they, he's the big bad. And the other villains, the other heroes, they fight each other. Simple as that. That episode, by the way, was in Earth's Mightiest Hero season 2. It was episode 23 called.
Okay, I thought that was I remember watching that. I couldn't remember which series it was from though. Thank you.
And what's beautiful about this whole thing with Kingpin, the way it's been set up, is he can set himself up to be like a martyr for the city, right? Like, so he can, if he's going to take that mayor role, he can be like, hey, like this happened to me because I was trying to defend this city. He's from that city. He can claim that he loves it. That's what he's always done. And hey, this happened to me trying to defend this city. And if you watch one of those Echo trailers, it shows that he's like talking to her in a room. It seems to be just the two of them. And it seems almost like one of those, like, she fought her way there and she gets to the final boss kind of moments, and he's sitting there and he's like, you're a monster just like I am, kind of type of thing. So it almost makes me feel like he's going to basically make her like the scapegoat of all this. And even though she was somebody close to him, he's probably going to use her in his way of trying to gain that mayoral campaign and to eventually be the mayor.
Sure.
Do you think that we could also get Luke Cage in this, since we know from the comics that him and Jessica Jones have a child, have that relationship, that kind of stuff? I wonder. Don't include Iron Fist. You kind of stay out. But we also, there's been rumors of White Tiger as well. I'm trying to think. Who else we could see pop into this. So it almost seems now that Echo is not as much as to the side project as it could be more important to this as we move into Daredevil Born Again and into Spider-Man 4.
Same actor as Luke Cage, Power Man? Or
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm 50-50. I'm not gonna. It depends if they cast someone else. It would depend who they cast in that role. But whether Michael Coulter comes back or they cast somebody else. For me, I'm 50-50, but also depends on who they cast in that role. From the chat here, pretty much saying the same thing. Heard it was going to be more street level. Kate Bishop, Echo, Daredevil, Fisk, all, and I heard. Also, too, with the Scott Lang thing, I'm trying to figure out how Scott Lang would fit in this. You know, he's more West Coast, not East Coast. What will be his tie into this? Who will be his tie into this? Does Cassie get involved? Maybe?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe Hank Pym's got something going on and sends old Scott over to New York or something, you know, because I think he's in, San Francisco or whatever.
Yeah, they're all in California, so.
Yeah, so, I mean, it would literally be, you know, West Coast to East Coast kind of type of thing, so. There could always be one of those things. I mean, they did that with Matt Murdock, where he just happened to appear on the West Coast from the East Coast, so maybe they'll find some little reason like that to kind of send him out there.
The other thing, too, with Miss Marvel being in New Jersey, I wonder, in her recruiting Kate Bishop at the end of the Marvels, and then her mentioning that Scott Lang has a daughter, I wonder if they're in New Jersey and maybe Cassie ventures over to New York.
Look at the comments.
With Kate. Yep, there you go. Through Kate trying to reach Cassie. Yep, there you go. Because right now, I don't think Kate has any tie to Cassie right now. The only mention of her between them was Kamala saying Scott Lang has a daughter. So
yeah, and obviously Clint had worked with
Kate.
Well, someone. Well, Clint had worked with someone to get his Pym particle arrows.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
So,
maybe that's it too, from the Trust a Bro. Your bro. That's good. That's a good shout out from Hawkeye. The Pym particle, the Pym arrows. Yep. Good shout there, Andy. So the next one here, Thor 5. Gareth Edwards via post-credit pod responds to the rumors of him directing Thor 5. I saw those rumors. I saw it and I jokingly sent it to my girlfriend. I just texted her the link and said, I didn't want you to find out this way. I've never heard anything about it. It's totally, the internet is an incredible place. I love those movies. I love Marvel. A lot of my friends work on Marvel films. I love all the other movies and franchises. I go to see them. I have most of them on DVD, Blu-ray on the shelf, but I really want to keep pursuing original sci-fi. Was that a very political correct answer? I never say never. It's the right circumstances, absolutely. So he wants to stay kind of more original sci-fi. So
fair enough.
Could think of any Thor storylines that could be more sci-fi-ish. Any come to mind? Or could he put a sci-fi spin on any of the Thor stories?
I mean, this is going to sound, I don't really know if it will fit 100%, but any of the Beta Ray Bill stuff, I feel like kind of messes with that, because Beta Ray Bill's kind of like a super soldier for the Carbonites. Corbinites, excuse me, I said Carbonites, but yeah, the Corbinites, and it's one of those things where it's like he was kind of engineered to be kind of like the best of the best for them, so I feel like that kind of delves in that science fiction thing. But even Thor in the MCU, it's like, he's magic sometimes, and then he's science fiction at other times.
And the whole Jane Foster stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of does this push and pull thing, and he says early on in one of the movies that magic is just science that's not understood, but then it's like, how do other things happen? It just makes me really question. I don't think Doctor Strange is doing science when he's using magic, so, there's just stuff like that. So.
Well, then Jane Foster also told Selvig that, science fiction is, is before it's science fact anyway, so, or whatever that line was, she said Dr. Selvig, so.
It is definitely.
So, our fourth animated series is right now. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Season 2 will premiere February 2nd. Nice. We'll have 12 new songs. Guest stars, though. Here's a lot of guest stars in this series. I don't know how they're doing this, but they're doing it. So, Giancarlo Esposito is going to voice a character. Andy Garcia, Arsenio Hall, Jackie Harry, Zolo Mariduna, so Blue Beetle is going to be voicing a character. Edward James Olmos, Parker Posey, David Tennant, and Peter Well, who played RoboCop, and among others. I didn't mention them all. That all gonna guest star, voice a character in this season 2. So
I suppose it's quick work. Mm-hmm. It must be fairly quick work to record your lines. You don't even have to record them, You don't have to go anywhere like out of your area. You could probably just go to any
Studio. Yeah.
any studio, record and send your lines over. It's not like you've got to go, right, okay, the studio that's producing this is in LA and they're in New York and they've got to fly over there, or even out of the US. They could be in any country. They can record it anywhere and send the audio files. So I suppose that's why it makes it a little bit easier now for those kind of things to happen. But that, regardless, there's still some big catches in there, isn't there?
And I enjoyed season 1 too, so looking forward to season 2.
I love Arsenio Hall too. Like, man, that dude is so funny. Like, he was so great in Coming to America, and him and Eddie Murphy played like half the characters in that movie. I mean, you know, like I remember growing up and watching that movie, and then like my parents one time were like, "Yeah, you know, Arsenio played that character. Arsenio played that," and I was like, "What?" Like, I went for years and never even realized that. You know, like he's incredibly talented.
There's your Kang right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
Deadpool 3. Disney has officially changed Deadpool 3 to untitled Deadpool movie for their marketing distribution, which means the title is probably going to give it away if they're going to this length. Because at this point in time, we'd have a title for a movie already, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact that they kept it generic and now it's untitled means that it's probably going to be in Deadpool Kills the Foxverse. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the title. And Sean Levy has stated that Deadpool 3 would not be the film's final title. Also via cryptic HD quality, Deadpool 3 teaser will probably be released during the Super Bowl in February. So looking forward to which makes sense. That's one of the biggest primetime slots right there. If you're going to do that for the first time, the Super Bowl is the time to do it. So,
for sure.
Captain America: Brave New World. Via Deadline, Marvel Studios has reportedly hired Matthew Orton from Moon Knight to write additional scenes and material. So, remember that Moon Knight might be in this series that was going floating around?
What will happen?
Maybe he writes them in. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you also got to think Deadpool's not like mentally sound either, and for a character like Moon Knight's definitely going through some mental stuff. So, I mean, like they're not the same character, obviously, but you can kind of take some aspects from that Moon Knight writing and kind of throw it into Deadpool.
Well, this is Captain America, not Deadpool.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. That
you're
said
right.
Deadpool. I apologize.
You're fine.
So, yeah.
But the whole thing with probably Sam's struggle, you know, that he's Captain America now, and the whole thing with the whole Ross angle and the Gamma stuff, you know, I could see some of that. Maybe some Super Society stuff also as well, from experimentation, that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, and if they do the thing with Ross with being like the Red Hulk and everything like that, you have that kind of dual identity thing going on. I mean, Mark Spector kind of has that, you know, with the multiple identities and everything. So I mean, I think that'll pay off ultimately, you know.
Thunderbolts news. In an interview with the Playlist, Wyatt Russell confirms absence of rumored characters. He says Daniel Bro is not going to be in it, but he could play a part in it. I don't know. I haven't read a script yet, but as of now, I'm not sure. He also said Harrison's in Captain America 4, I think, said Russell. I don't know. I haven't read a script, so I don't exactly know who's in it. So it's not really a confirmation, but it sounds like that he's not in it. But I have some comments from Daniel Bro also. I know Florence Pugh is in it. I know Sebastian Stan is in it. I know David Harbour is going to be in it. David Harbour is another guy who's like so good. I love everything he does. I love his NHL commercials. He plays this like insane NHL fan guarding the Stanley Cup. I love everybody in it so much. And the director, Jake Schreier, who directed me in HBO's Lodge 49, or directed Out Loud Lodge 49. I feel very, very lucky. I hope it ends up being as good as I feel lucky. And yeah, I'm excited too. Daniel Bro has comments now on Zemo, so this pretty much says that he's not in it as of now. I guess if he shows up again, you really need to carefully think, what is this crazy little guy up to this time around? So if the right opportunity would come, I wouldn't say no, obviously, but for now, I'm into other things that I'm very happy with because that might have collided. I think they're shooting Thunderbolts right now, so the destiny and fate always. I strongly believe in that. You just follow the path that you were offered to follow. Also, Wyatt Russell, in another interview, says that Thunderbolt starts up in March or April. So as of now, no Zemo. So, Hitmonkey, Season 2, fifth animated series. Season 2 is coming in 2024 on Hulu. So, we have some Ryan Gosling news.
Ooh.
Could this be Ghost Rider? Could this
Come on, make him Danny Ketch. Come on. You know.
I can see him as Johnny Blaze, especially after watching the Fall Guy preview. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to see like Danny Ketch and then bring in Keanu Reeves as Johnny Blaze, and then they could have, you know, Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze, and they could do the whole they were related and secretly like half brothers, or they could, you know, they could maybe have multiple Ghost Riders, have Robbie Reyes come in at one point, and yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty in Ghost Rider, right? Like, there's been a few people that have been Ghost Riders, so you can do kind of a lot with that character.
The other thought could be Nova. He could be Richard Rider.
I've always liked that idea, if I'm honest.
But via Danner RPK, Ryan Gosling is rumored to have met with Kevin Feige about a role in the MCU. What if they bring him as the Beyonder? Anyways, what if he's Johnny Storm?
Oh no!
I think he's too old for that role, but that'd be fun, hilarious. X-Men news via Danner RPK also. Mr. Sinister is reportedly the top contender to become the main villain in MCU's upcoming X-Men project. Magneto is currently not involved in any plans for the feature film. Which is fine. They've done Magneto so much in the X-Men stuff and both the iterations of it that I'm fine with them pivoting over to Mr. Sinister, which we've only gotten teased in the past movies. So I'm totally fine with that.
I want to see him
in
all his glory.
Which, you know, he's been teased in the Logan movie, he's been teased in New Mutants, and I know those aren't really MCU movies, but, like, I mean, we've seen Essex Corp so much. Like, they took a vial of Wolverine's blood, they say on the sample, like, Weapon X. Like, it's, like, mentioned, it's teased that he's cataloging powers, and he's doing all that kind of stuff. Like, it is so over-needed by now to see that character with the X-Men.
Someone we've already spoke about tonight. I've always had a flamboyant feeling about Mr. Sinister. Maybe Coleman Domingo could do Mr. Sinister.
I've always pictured Bryan Cranston in that role. I don't know why.
That is
the role maybe it's the voice and everything, but I've always pictured him in that role. From the chat here, back to the Ryan Gosling thing comment. He could play either Ghost Rider or Nova. Back to the X-Men's Mr. Sinister comment. I like they're using Mr. Sinister about time. Exactly.
Turns out Ryan Gosling is playing Mr. Sinister.
Also, Marvel Comics is set to release a prequel comic in March. It'll be written by Steve Fox and Salvin Espa in collaboration with the X-Men 97 showrunners. So,
interesting.
We also have an X-Men game that was leaked in a data breach. So Sony signs a deal with Marvel to make exclusive X-Men games until 2035. Cool. This was revealed by a cyber attack data breach. So who knows if that's still happening, but that's what's coming from that. That's interesting too, that Marvel and Sony are still doing, are doing more things together. One that's part of the give us some more Spider-Man stuff, and we'll give you some other stuff to kind of fill in type stuff. So
maybe that's trying to build a bridge or something.
Yeah. So. Star Wars news. So remember we didn't know about the Bad Batch season 3 and Tales of the Jedi season 2 for next year. They weren't on the announcement before. Well, guess what? They're coming in 2024 on Disney Plus.
Cool. I really enjoyed that Tales of the Jedi. That was really good fun. I really like watching all of those. They all sort of added little sort of layers to each of those characters' stories. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I never got into Bad Batch, sadly, but apparently it's very good.
I gotta go rewatch it because it was kind of my background noise, so I gotta go back and rewatch it and pay attention to it.
Yeah, I watched a few of them, but my boys couldn't get into it either, which and they're big Star Wars animations fans and fans of Star Wars of that era, that Clone Wars, the Stormtroopers, all of that big era. They're big fans of it, and they couldn't get into it either. So yeah, maybe I should go back and try and watch it, but we'll see.
Moving on to DCU stuff. Superman Legacy news. James Gunn via social media debunks Kurt Russell's casting as Jor-El and hints that will be portrayed by a young actor in Superman Legacy. What if it's Wyatt Russell? Speaking of the Russells, if you haven't watched Monarch Legacy of Monsters, that show is so good, and how they bounce back and forth between the early days of Monarch and into the time between Godzilla Legacy or King of Monsters and now. So you haven't watched it, watch it, because they both played great roles in that series. But he says, James Gunn about Superman Legacy, I just answered this to someone else, but no, love Kurt, and although the mores of Krypton are certainly different than ours, I'm not sure I see him as the first father of a newborn. So then there was reports that Palm Climbing Teeth, who plays
Mantis.
Thank you, I went blank there. Mantis, who played Mantis in the MCU, they were saying that she was cast in an unknown role, and that was going around for a while. I think like even Variety or somebody else actually reported this too. James Gunn came to social media again to talk about this. Despite Palm being one of my favorite actors to work with, this is 100% not true. Not only is Palm not in the movie, but no one has ever discussed her being in the movie, nor do I have any idea what role she would possibly play. So
I feel like people are just naming characters from previous like Gunn movies. I mean, Kurt Russell was Ego, right? Like, you know, that's Mantis. Like, I mean, I feel like they're gonna start being like, what is Dave Bautista cast as in the DC movies now? You know, things like that.
I do feel like James Gunn might be one of those directors who has got very loyal actors that work with him.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? That will go and work with him on whatever he works with. I feel like he's that. I feel like he's got that kind of maybe like addictive personality to the people that he works with. I don't know. It's just, I'm just a guess, but
Chris Pratt is so perfect for Booster Gold. Like, I mean, if he doesn't do that, I mean, I would be blown away, because I mean, that is just right up his alley.
Yep.
I feel like it's such a goofy character, and I mean, it's kind of like Star-Lord in a way, but just a time traveler instead of just traveling space and stuff, you know?
made for him.
Yeah.
plus back on the comment about James Gunn working with people that he knows over and over, it's like, you know how they work, you can trust them.
Yeah.
You know what they're going to bring to the table. So there's that aspect to it as well. So,
Of course.
what if they put, what's his name? John Cena as Jor-El?
I mean, he's already in Peacemaker. So,
I know, but maybe, you know, dual roles on, you know.
Yeah.
From the chat here, back on the Star Wars stuff, I really like to see Star Wars go way back in history and do some pre-Empire Jedi Order kind of thing. And I think they are in some of the products that were announced before.
Yeah.
They haven't gotten anything.
Yeah, you've
When
got
yet?
The Acolyte.
Yep.
That's going to be set a long time ago, and I think there is rumours about a Knights of the Old Republic series as well, which would be really, really cool. But yeah, the Acolyte is definitely coming out.
James Gunn also said that, or via social media, also reveals why the Batman isn't part of the DCU. It's not an allowed thing. It's Matt's choice, and we respect that. So basically, Matt Reeves wants to keep that separate from the DCU and keep it its own self-contained thing, it sounds like. So basically, the Penguin and anything else will be Elseworlds projects, basically.
Awesome.
So,
Good to hear.
yeah, anything related to the Batman is going to be basically Elseworlds. Speaking of Elseworlds, Joker 2, James Gunn said he watched Joker 2 and given notes. But the film is mostly with WB, where it started. Everything moving forward in live action we're involved with. So that's probably an Elseworlds project too, I bet, is the Joker 2. Also, there's going to be a new intro sequence for DCU projects. But James Gunn says there will be a different one for Elseworlds projects. So DCU will have its one intro. If it's not DCU and labeled Elseworlds, it's going to have its own intro. So
Good.
Warner Brothers is making some moves lately. The first one was Tubi and WD have, or WB, not WD, not WD-40. I'm thinking, I don't know why I said that. Warner Brothers and Tubi, yeah, have signed a deal to bring all DC movies to Tubi to stream for free, including new releases like the Batman, Suicide Squad, and more DC movie/TV shows. Let me go back. Oops, rewind back to the MCU. So how many live action series will be in 2024? 3 live action series right now. Echo, Deadpool 3, and Agatha live action. As far as animated, there's 5. X-Men 97, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Season 2. Hitmonkey, your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and the Black Panther one. That's 5, right? I said.
Mhm.
Yes, those are your 5. So 5 animated, 3 live action right now. 2 Disney Plus, 1 movie.
Yep.
There's only 2 Disney Plus next year shows.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Something else comes out.
You've obviously got then the Sony stuff because you've got Craven, Madam Web,
Across the Spider-Verse or Beyond the Spider-Verse next year. Is that 2025?
I think they've put that back to 2025.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot about Craven Madam Web because honestly, I'll probably wait to streaming to see
try
this.
and forget about them. Yeah.
Yeah. Anywho, so there's your deal with that one. Dune news. Warner Brothers is reportedly giving a 3rd film the green light for Dune. So Jeff Snyder has shared that Warner Brothers is so bullish on Villanueva's vision for Dune that Part 3 has already been greenlit for 2027 release date in mind. Why the optimism? According to Snyder, WB sees Part 2 as a home run, and internally, I'm hearing the studio is already projecting opening north of 100 million.
I enjoyed the first one.
Mhm.
I've never seen the original movie.
Oh, you could have watched the original. It's all wrapped up in the movie too. That's so
Right.
yeah. It's the 80s stuff, but it's so good.
Yeah, okay. I might give it a go, but I did watch this new one. It took me 20-30 minutes to get into it, but once I did, I was like, okay, yeah, they're really building like a universe here.
Never watched the Dune movies either, so to be honest,
Give it a go. Give it a go. It's all right.
I call my dad voice to kids the voice because when we're like out, especially to my kids or just other kids or our friends, they're like, "Hey, Jarian, get the kids round up," and I use my dad voice, and they all can run in. Yep.
Nice.
So I call my dad voice the voice. The last bit of news here: WB possibly expanding via Axios. Warner Brothers Discovery in talks to merge with Paramount. David Zaslav met with Bob Bakish on Tuesday at Paramount HQ to discuss. Zaslav also has spoken to Sherry Redstone about a deal. Warner Brothers Discovery has hired bankers.
just bankers.
So it's like, is like Warner Brothers trying to be the Disney on the other side? Disney requiring other studios, that kind of stuff. It looks like WB is trying to follow Disney and do the same thing.
Maybe.
But it gives you more streamers. Paramount's got Paramount Plus, the streaming side of things. They're going to Tubi, who's free. Maybe that ad revenue from Tubi is going to help them out a lot too. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's about that time where we've hit that point where streaming services are going to start bundling with each other and start offering like joint packages. I mean, we've already kind of seen that a little bit with like Disney, Hulu, ESPN kind of starting to be bundled together.
Well, even now, if you have the Showtime subscription, they're bumping their price up slightly, and now you get Paramount Plus with your Showtime piece. I got an email about that. So
over here, if you subscribe to Sky Television, you can get Netflix bundled in with it already. So yeah, that is starting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one last thing too. Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom. Apparently, there's no premiere. They had some kind of thing this week, but it really wasn't really a premiere. It was just some kind of get-together, some kind of party, but not really any kind of premiere that I've seen going on. So it further goes to show you that they're kind of sandbagging the DCEU, and looks like the final ship to sail is going to be Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom. Alex, I am wrong. I am so wrong. I thought Jason Momoa's fan base could save this film. And it looks like from the tracking that it's not going to do... From the tracking that I've seen so far, Blue Beetle will outdo Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom. So
yeah, and I think I've seen that like for opening weekend, just from ticket sales already, they've not even hit $40 million.
Yeah.
I know a lot of movies are struggling right now. Like I keep seeing #1 movies come out and they're not, blowing $50 million by any means, like getting past that point. I feel like at the box office, it just seems to be something right now. But I feel like with this movie, like there's a lot of like people that are they just don't care, and it kind of feels like not only has that ship sailed, but it feels like kind of like a Viking burial, like they just lit it on fire and pushed it out to sea kind of type of thing, and they're just gonna let it just do its thing.
And it's Christmas season, and they're killing that baby, and no one wants to see that baby get killed on Creator and Christmas, right?
No.
yeah,
Christmas is about the baby,
Exactly.
It is incredibly weird that they brought that about like during 3 days before Christmas, I think is when the release date is on December 22nd. Like for an Aquaman movie, like I totally expected them to release this, like, because I don't think we're really getting a Superman Legacy movie until 2025. So there really won't be like any DC stuff, I don't think, really next year. I might be wrong on that, but you know, like, I don't know. I just feel like Aquaman's been kind of put out into a pasture, and it's kind of like, well, if it does anything great, it's just a bonus. If it makes money, if not, well, then oh well, like out with the old kind of type of thing.
This is my sentiment right here. I'll watch it, but not at the theater. Most won't invest in it because it's not going anywhere from the chat. And exactly, I'm not gonna probably watch it in the theater. I'll watch it at home. Like we almost went to the theater to go see the new Hunger Games movie, but now it's already on streaming. You can watch it, so it's like if you already can watch it in the comfort of your own home. Yeah, there you go.
I think if it's not something that you're overly fussed about, then yeah, maybe. But I think we do still need to be going to theatres. I think otherwise we're going to be stuck in our houses and not doing anything else.
And I'm seeing the discourse out there, people making excuses for some of these movies not performing well. Like they're saying that Wonka's not going to do even close as much as the Marvels did. And people are like, well, the Marvels was its own other problem, not because of what's going on right now. I'm just like, the Marvels is fine. You people are just being weirdos. But they're like, well, Wonka's budget was so much smaller, and they're gonna make their budget back, so it doesn't really matter. It's like, why are you moving goalpost here for box office on film? The box office is the box office, right? Mm-hmm. Just because you have all that toxicity towards the Marvels and that kind of stuff, because it's a female directed, female starring film. You throw all the hate about that box office, but everything else you're moving goalposts on. Like I'm waiting to see the goalposts get moved for Aquaman Lost Kingdom when it doesn't do well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that kind of goes back to my point that, like, I don't really think even number one movies in the theaters are doing well right now. Like, Wonka was, like, number one in its release, like, weekend or whatever when it came out. And it's still not, like, it's not killing it. I mean, it does have a low budget. I think its budget was like 125 million. Yeah. I could be wrong about that, but like I definitely think that's one of the biggest problems with movies coming out now is when you make a movie that has a 250 or 300 million dollar budget, that's huge. And then you make a movie like Wonka that comes out and it makes like a third of its budget and it's like opening weekend. It's like, dude, that's great. Like, and that's just domestic, of course. I mean, but Wonka will do great worldwide, in my opinion. Wonka is one of those stories where you can kind of retell that story probably 15 different times over the next, years, and it'll be good.
And this Wonka story is not the same one, right? This is a different Wonka story. This is like the prequel, how Wonka became Wonka, right? Where the original Wonka, where he was already Wonka, and Charlie and the Great Gas Elevator, that kind of stuff, and the whole Johnny Depp one, that was basically a remake of the same Wonka that we've seen as kids. So this one's a different story. So I like when they do that. Like I'll probably watch it with my kids. If my kids, they want to go see it, I might take them over the break because they're on Christmas break as of today, and until the 8th of January. So I'll probably, if they want to go see it, I'll probably take them to go see it maybe. But other than that, I'll probably wait till streaming comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably watch that too. I didn't know that it was like kind of different in that way, that it was a prequel. But I mean, if you don't like Willy Wonka and any of those movies, I feel like, even with Gene Wilder, like I've seen that movie probably 100 times in my lifetime. Like they used to play it on TV all the time.
Yep.
So, I know that's old, but it's just kind of a classic. Willy Wonka is kind of a classic. So it may not do a ton of money right up front, but I think it will do pretty well in theaters over time. Like it'll probably slowly kind of dwindle down at the box office.
For sure.
Hey, one last thing. Iron Man 3 is a Christmas movie.
Get it in over the next week or so. Yeah. Right, let's wrap this up then, guys. So that'd be us for 2023. Just want to wish all of our listeners and all the people that comment and take the time to subscribe to the channel and like the videos a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And thank you for supporting us. Thank you for being part of our show. And yeah, have a great holidays. We'll be back in the new year. We'll be talking about What If. We'll be maybe talking about Echo, depending on when we get on that. But in the meantime, consume all the comic nerd Christmas movies you can get your hands on.
Yep, and I want to echo what Andy says, and then Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and between now and our next appearance, you'll be seeing clips be posted of bits from our episodes. This is the end of season 3 for us. So we'll see you live for season 4 after the new year.
Love it. All right.
Awesome.
Take care.
See you guys.
Bye.